Welcome to the Dr. Donna podcast, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Innovative, evidence-based recovery that helps to identify intergenerational trauma, allowing for freedom and embracement of the healing process. Today, episode 102, What's Next? And now your host, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee.
And this is Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee. This is where I usually say, helping you heal your family legacy. But today, I'm talking about what's next. Where are we going next? I've spoken a lot about childhood trauma and family trauma and the impact it has on people as they become adults and try to move forward in relationships and jobs and trying to identify what their hopes and dreams are, the issues that occur as a result of trauma, and all of that. I've talked about it for about 2 years. And although I know that much of what I've talked about, you might not remember, and even if I talked about it again, you might say, well, I'm pretty sure you'd say, I didn't know that. I didn't hear that before. Because this is what happens when people are really looking at themselves and trying to figure out what happened and why am I not getting why am I not where I wanted to go? Okay. So from here on, I am going to be talking about what's next. Well, what's next is life on life's terms. And there are so many issues that come up in our daily lives that I think it's important to be able to say, okay, so what? So what about all this family trauma? So what about my childhood trauma? So what about the relationships that are failed because of what happened to me? So what? And these are the questions that I want to be addressing from here on out. Things like, like regrets. Things like, why can't women support other women? Things like aging. Let me tell you about that. This woman, this 72-year-old woman, decided to go sledding. And I can hardly move my neck now because I caught air. You know, I don't think I'm supposed to do that when I'm this age. But anyway, so aging will be part of it. I've had a lot of requests from people to talk more about boundaries. And you've heard me say, you know, like children don't have boundaries. They only learn about it by experiencing it and getting real teaching about it. But, you know, it's still one of the most difficult aspects of our lives as adults. I'm going to be, you know, dealing with and talking about adult issues, okay? Like, that's what it is. So what? That means I've done all this. Now what? Because I'm an adult. If I've looked at this, now what am I going to do about it? So I am going to take the podcast in a direction that will include many of these concerns. Now, I also wanted to let you know that during the holidays, you know, maybe this was a holiday thing for me, but during the holidays, my book, Iron Legacy, Childhood Trauma and Adult Transformation, is now available on audiobook. And so you can go to whatever platform you want and you will find my book, Iron Legacy, Childhood Trauma and Adult Transformation. And in my book, you will, if you want to hear it or read it, you'll be able to review the last 2 years of what I've been talking about, which is childhood trauma and the impact it has on the developing child and on adult life. You will also, if you if you want to take it on and read the whole thing or hear the whole thing. And I say that in that way because it's kind of dense. It's not a quick read or a quick listen. It's understandable, but it is dense. And you will read in there about how do people heal from this and how does it change their lives when they do decide to heal from it. And just like in my book, I'll use some of my own life as an example, but I'll also use some of my wisdom that I have learned being a therapist for 50 years. And I am still a therapist. And so I would like to just let you know about that book. I've had it, you can still buy it online at Amazon. And I would encourage you, not that it does me any good because, well, I wrote it and so I know what's in it. And I'm certainly not expecting to get rich. I've learned this from my life, is that you don't write a book to get rich, and that's not why I wrote it anyway. I wrote it because I knew that I'd be gone sometime, and I knew that what I had learned and what I had spent my whole life helping people do was really worth it. People's lives changed in ways that were absolutely amazing to me. And I was part of it. And, they would say, oh, thank you. And that was good. That feels really good when you're working really hard and then you get to the place where somebody is finally making substantial changes in their lives, will improve their lives, improve their children's lives, their spouses' lives, their work life. And when somebody makes those kind of changes, it just has a huge ripple effect on everybody they know. And so that's terribly satisfying to me. And I don't mind saying so. So my book was written because when I'm gone and when I'm not available anymore, it's still there. And if you want to, if you have the courage to, and if you really want to make those changes in your life, you can use the book now on audio. And also if you want to buy it online in paperback, you can make those changes, hopefully, without spending a fortune on therapy. Okay, so that's why it's dense, because it's not like, oh, here's 5 steps, and if you do these 5 steps and, then you'll be fine. No, this is a journey. It isn't a sprint. Okay, it's a marathon. And there is no, oh, okay, well, then I'll be well. No. This is a new way to move through your life. And I know every time somebody writes a book, here, this is going to help your life. And a lot of books do. I mean, I've certainly read enough that has really helped me on my own journey. But this book is designed to help you in lieu of being able to go to therapy. And there are all kinds of reasons that people aren't able to. And now you can even do it online. But I also know that until recently, anyway, and even now, it's questionable whether or not therapists are trained in the impact of childhood trauma and how to heal from it, really. Okay? Like I've heard people say, yeah, I've done all that work and blah, blah, blah. And then something is going wrong in their adult lives and they're right back in their child ego states. And they said, but I've done all this work. There's nothing left to do. Knowing about it, looking at it, doesn't heal it. It helps. It helps. But there is a formula, not even a formula. Let me say, there's a process that needs to be handled. It needs to be, worked out. And, I've told you about it. I've written about it. You can now hear about it on audiobook. So I would really support you in doing this if you haven't already done it. Now, I know you can go back and listen to me too. And you might say, well, this takes a while. It does. It takes a little while, maybe a couple of years. So what are you going to do every day for a couple of years? You're going to get up and watch talk shows or reality TV so that you don't have to look at your own lives? Are you going to, get up every day and do the same thing over again, expecting different results? I would suggest that you say, okay, I'm going to put some energy into this. I'm going to see if it impacts the way I do my adult life. And, I've had guests on the show, and I'll continue to have guests on the show. But I've had guests on the show that it has impacted their adult lives. And they've talked about it. I remember there was one man on the show that talked about, being completely entitled, and he didn't even know about it. And he didn't even understand how it affected his children, his spouses, even himself. And he talked about realizing one day that, oh, wait, I've been entitled, but I'm not entitled. And I need to change the way of thinking about that so that I know that just because, I'm a male, I'm white, and I'm wealthy, that doesn't mean that I don't have to go by the rules. What a concept. But he got that, and it changed his life forever. In ways that, it's like when he was talking about it, he was choking up and having tears about it because it was so important. How does it feel? Well, it feels like you're a human being. You're part of the human race. You can actually feel your feelings. You can actually love people for who they are, not what they do for you. Okay, that's empty. You love somebody because of what they can do for you? First of all, that's objectifying another human being. And it's very empty. Because that means you got to get a new one over and over again. I remember when I was a young therapist, I asked a man, I had all kinds of white males who were wealthy in my practice. I don't know why that happened, of all people. But, he said to me, one day I asked him, son is like fourth or fifth wife. And he was currently not married. And he said, it's like, when am I going to find a woman who can really, be there for me? And I said, well, how do you feel about women overall? And he goes, well, they're like cars. They're shiny and new. They smell good. It's all good. You get in the car, you drive it around. But after a while, it's just boring. They're the same car. So I said, I go buy a new car when I'm bored and tired of the one I have. And I'm bored and tired of the wife I have, and so I get a new one. And I said, and here you are in my office. I guess that's really working out. Because now, you're paying me for what? To say, well, that's okay. Keep doing it. If you just look for the right woman, then you'll find. I said, no, you've got to start looking at women and experiencing women as human beings, not objects for your pleasure. And, he said, well, I don't, after, it's like denial, delusion, which is what people do when they get hit with reality. It's like, oh, no, I don't do that. Defense mechanism. I've never done that. Delusion, denial. And after he finished with that, because, I'm a patient listener. I listen. Like, oh, okay, well, if you've never done that and you don't do that and it doesn't ring true to you, why are you here? And why do you have 5 wives? That none of them have been, are still here. Now the guy's a lot older, of course. That's why he's there. And I said, look at the common denominator. You. So when he started to do this work that I'm talking about, he put in a lot of years. And he was absolutely, I am going to change this because I don't want to die an old man. And some woman will come along, some young woman probably, will come along and be my next wife. And then she'll just wait for me to die. And that'll be the end of my life. I don't want that. I want someone who I'm close to, who I feel connected with. And I said, well, you got to connect. You got to be willing and able to connect yourself. And his childhood trauma made it so he was not connectable. He didn't know how to do it. I said, women know how to do it. Most of us are raised to do it. I think there's a genetic part of ourselves that we just kind of know how to do it, and we do it. But sometimes men don't know how to do it because that hasn't been done for them. They're little boys, and, it's like they romp and play and have all this gigantic energy. And when they want to snuggle and when they want to connect, it's like, oh, well, you're romping and stomping and, look how great you are doing that. And it's like, and so their lives become about what they can, accomplish. That doesn't feel warm and fuzzy. Okay, so I'm going off on a tangent. But I'm saying that this is the direction I want to take. That if you want to look at your childhood trauma, if you want healing, you now have a way to go. And as you just heard me say, it's like I will be going back and talking about that, but not in the same way. All right. I'm more interested now in talking about going forward. Like the man who comes in and says, okay, I've had 5 wives and, and I don't want to keep doing this over and over again. And what can I do differently? And I talk about what needs to happen in order for that to change. I've known many men in my practice because most of my practice was men, probably about 70%. And it's still kind of baffling to me because until recently, men just did not do therapy. It was viewed as like weak, a sign of weakness. And then when enough of them died, I guess, and started to recognize, gee, this feels bad. Or, that it's like it over time has become more acceptable. But I've always had men in my practice, and most of my life, that's what I've done is work with men. And so I could talk about that, and I could talk about it from a woman's perspective because I am one. And, most of the people I am around on in my daily life are women. And so I can talk about it from a woman's perspective too. So Why would you do all this work? Why would you make that commitment to yourself? And that's what is next on the Dr. Donna Show. That's what it's called, by the way. Dr. Donna Show. I've talked about healing your family legacy. This isn't what that's about anymore. And I want to take your questions. I want to hear what your questions are. That's what I would like to have this show be about. It's like you say, okay, Dr. Donna, I've done all this. I'm doing this. Now what? So what? I want to hear from you about what you want to talk about in your lives now, not about what it was like then, although that's still available. It's not over with. It's never over with because it impacts your life. So how can you say, well, okay, but do I need to keep going over that? Heavens no, please don't rehash the childhood trauma. Once you've gone through the process and I've told you what it is and it's in my book, you can absolutely do that. I'm talking about you're going through your life going, oh my goodness, I've done all that work and I've had kids and I've been a good parent and I've talked to them about boundaries and I haven't hurt them and I haven't abused them and I've given them guidance and direction. And now my kid's off to college and he's drinking. Should I be horrified? Should I be scared? What can I do? Those are the kind of questions. That's a good question. I actually get that question from people. What shall I do now about my kid who's acting like a young adult? So I can talk about that. I can help you with that. Hopefully, if it really is a crisis or a trauma or something needs to be done, I'll tell you. Or I'll say, back away a little bit. Your young son who's trying to become a man is out there doing what all young men do. Well, let me say, most young men do when they go off and try and identify who they are as men and who they want to become. And you need to get out of their way. Be available, take notice, get out of their way. These are the kind of things that you can ask me about. You can ask me about things like, my husband or my wife and I, we just don't connect anymore. Is there something going on that, you can talk about? So one of the things you might have noticed about me at this point is I can talk about virtually anything. I don't know why. Well, I have a lot of information, but if you want me to talk about something, let me know. Don't hang around and wait to see, is she going to talk about this? Is she going to talk about that? If you don't say what your needs and wants are, remember that? If you don't let me know what your needs and wants are, then I don't know what they are. You have to let me know or I don't know. And then I can't talk about it. Okay. So I would like to hear from you. I still have my email at healingyourfamilylegacy at gmail.com. And you can absolutely let me know if there's something you want me to talk about. And like I said, I could talk about anything. I've had a lot of education. I've had a lot of experience. I was doing crossword this morning because that's what old people do. I get up and do the crossword. And one of the clues was holders of wisdom. And the answer was elders. That'd be me. I'm a holder of wisdom. I like it. But I also have a lot of experience, a lot of information, 50 years plus of being a therapist. I've known thousands of people, thousands and thousands of people. Many have gone through my legacy workshops. which is like a really condensed version of the book. And again, healing that childhood trauma, which you now know how to do. Then you say how you might be surprised at noticing as you do that, how your life, your adult life is affected. I would say, don't go to that place of what can I do now or now what? Until you've done the healing your childhood trauma. So that's the direction we're taking. The show will be called Dr. Donna. It's going to be about the same length. I'm going to be talking about life on life's terms. And after you've, it's like you don't have to stop listening just because maybe you haven't done that work. You can still do that work. You can still listen. You can still ask me questions about anything you would like to know about. And I will be really happy to respond to that. And as usual, whenever I'm talking about anything like this, you don't have to worry about being identified. You don't have to worry about that. It won't be identified. In fact, if you email me your questions or your concerns, you can let me know, hey, I don't want this on the radio program or on the podcast. I don't want this on the podcast. See how I did that radio program? That's my age, okay? I was on radio programs as a young person, and now they're podcasts. So anyway, so that's Dr. Donna. And I will be talking about what comes next.
Thank you for listening to the Dr. Donna podcast here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Dr. Donna podcast is copyright 2023 Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The SoulWorks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. SoulWorks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the SoulWorks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.